Welcome to the Been There, Done That, Let's Chat podcast. My name is Russ Hagan, and on this podcast, my aim is to raise awareness around men's mental health and suicide prevention. As men, we don't talk enough about our feelings and our internal battles. This is what I'm trying to change. Today's special guest is triathlon royalty. He has won the Hawaiian Iron Man. He's also won what's known as the Grand Slam, which includes the ITU Triathlon World Championships, the Ironman World Championship, and the ITU Duathlon World Championship. It's my pleasure to introduce him today, as I grew up watching him on TV and was an inspiration. Greg Welch. All right, welcome, Greg. Thanks for coming, bud.
Thanks, mate. I got a snake in my mouth.
Yeah, that's all right, bud.
I couldn't resist all of the food. So.
That's all good. Help yourself.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so mate, just to chat today about, life, what you've been through, what you've done, your achievements. So growing up, where'd you grow up, mate?
Grew up in Greenacre.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I lived for the first 12 years of my life. And then we moved out to Campbelltown for a couple of years and then made our way over to Caringbah. And then Mum and Dad got a house in Bangor and then become, real Shire residents. So,
yep.
Very proud of that, of course.
And then lived in the Shire up until you moved to America.
Yeah, exactly. And when I come back and, go and stay with my younger brother, Justin, and his wife, Mel, and my two nieces and my nephew. And it's great.
Nice.
Yeah, got a great family and great kids.
Yep. And obviously made great career in triathlon. Obviously probably one of the best Australia's had. Did you grow up always want to do triathlons, mate, or how did you get into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I actually grew up playing rugby league. Played 10 years of rugby league, always surfed. Grandfather got my first surfboard, my little midget Farrelly foamy. I was about 3 or 4 years old. I can't remember how old I was exactly, but so surfing with my older brother Darren, and then Justin came along. There's 7.5 years between my younger brother and I. But actually, I grew up doing cross country, really, at school. In 5th grade, I decided to do the 800 meters, at primary school in Greenacre, and I actually won it.
Okay.
And I think it's just because my coach at rugby league made me, do 2 laps of warm up around the rugby field before, training would start, because everybody else could only do a lap, and he's like, "You're too fast. Go and do another one." So
just natural runner.
Yeah, it was cross country that I started with Sutherland Cross Country Running Club.
Yep. Okay, and then later on got into triathlons.
Yeah. So how I got into triathlons is a funny story. My mate in the surf club, Cronulla Surf Club, Richie Walker. Great swimmer. We become really good friends from the surf club, and he was doing a triathlon. I didn't even know what a triathlon was. So it was in the Royal National Park. He said, come and watch. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Be all right. So I ran down. That was 12K. I was so excited, straight after the race. He got third.
Oh, you ran to watch it?
I ran to watch it. I was so excited after watching him. He got third place. And I ran home.
Oh, wow.
Very next day, I went looking for bikes and went into Clarence Street Cyclery in town, and I heard that was, where Gary Sutton was working. He was another Shire guy, silver medalist at the Olympics in 76 for I think it was a scratch race back there, but, the track racing on the velodrome. And he sold me a bike. And ever since then, it was, so it was 1985.
I loved it. Yeah, that's great. So you started in 85 triathlons?
85, did Lake Illawarra. That was my first race.
Yep.
Got stung by about 750,000 jellyfish. Couldn't feel my body on the bike, and got off the bike, and it was some ridiculous place. I ran into the top 100 after, everybody passed me on the bike, and then I passed everybody else back on the run.
So you're always caught up on the run, yeah. So you had to work on your swimming a lot, Swimming and bike?
I did, but because I grew up surfing,
it
was it helped a lot. Mum used to take us to swim squad, and, my older brother, if he watches and listens to this, he's going to say something different, but, I was always the one that didn't want to go. But I did go a couple of times, but he was the one that went the most to swim squad, 5 a.m.
Oh, that's okay. And then, great career from triathlons, obviously. And then to win the Ironman in 94?
94.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a good career. So our first ever Olympic distance world championship was in Avignon, France in 1989. I was lucky enough to be picked on that team. I didn't have a great race in the first year, but the very next year I actually won. And that was my first world title. So that was incredible at the Olympic distance, but I was the first non-American to win the Ironman in Kona, so World Championship. So, you know, I only won the race one time, but my very dear friend, Craig Alexander, who lives in Caringbah right here, won it 3 times. Chris McCormack, also from the Shire, won it twice. So we've got 6 between us, you know, from this area, which is no other area in the world can boast that.
Yeah, wow, that's great, isn't it?
It really is.
So, yeah, I just like was chatting to you before about triathlon in the 90s in Australia. Like, it was pretty big. And the Aussies had like lots of good people doing it too, like Miles Stewart, Brad Bevan, there was Greg Bennett, the fellas you just said. Like, was that because of our training here? Did you have a special program here? Everyone did their own training, or what do you think that attributed to that?
Well, you've done your research, haven't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I used to watch it. I used to watch the triathlons growing up. Yeah. No, I used to love watching the triathlons and watching you growing up. Yeah.
It was good. You know what? On TV, you know, on the weekends, you know, in peak time, we used to get to watch the Uncle Toby's and the Kellogg series for the surf lifesaving guys. And that's what I think, you know, spurred on a triathlon series.
Yep.
So when you get to guys like Brad Bevan and Miles Stewart and Greg Bennett and Macca and, you know, Craig Alexander, and it was awesome. You know, every 2 weeks we'd be on TV. It started out as a Tooheys Blue series, then it went over to the Australian Grand Prix or something like that, and then it went over to St. George Formula One. And they were hell-bent races. It was just full-on anaerobic hell, it was. You know, it was either 3 race day or a double race day, which would be the enduro format.
Yep.
300 swim, 14K bike, and a 3K run or something like that, or 2K run, twice through, don't stop.
Yep.
And then we had an eliminator format as well. So these races absolutely full on. And then, you know, at the same time training for an Ironman distance race, it wasn't the most ideal thing, but there was no way in the world that I was missing out on that series. And Brad Bevan pretty much smacked us upside down, and you know,
because you had to race a lot too, pretty often. There wasn't much break, hey?
It was 5 races in like about an 8 to 10 week period.
Yep.
Yep.
And plus, you'd train in between that much, or just race a lot?
During that time, because it was summertime in Australia, I wasn't racing in the States, and we'd pretty much moved to the States from 1990 onwards.
Yep.
So it was downtime, you know, for over there. So it was good, you know, just to come back. And I wouldn't say I trained hardest, but it was, like you said, it was just going from race to race that kept you pretty sharp anyway. And then I'd go back to the States in April, May, and you know, kick off that season, which went until the end of October.
I see, pretty much go almost year round.
I did 22 seasons back to back.
Yeah, wow. Jesus, that must have been hard.
It was tough, but it was great. It was my job.
You loved it.
And, oh, mate, yeah, I loved it. And, you know, you travel the world on somebody else's, you know, dollar, and you'd meet all these families around the world. You become good friends with them. And now in retirement, you go back and you can visit them. And it was a great life, great lifestyle.
Yeah, I bet. Just touching on that, mate, like, I think it must take, with like this about mental health, obviously perspective, what you think. Like for you on them long races like the Hawaiian Iron Man, that's like what, 8 odd hours, 9 hours or something. Like, what goes through your mind with that? Obviously, you get a lot of head noise. Like, I jump on the treadmill for 20 minutes and I'm thinking, fuck, after 15, I want to get off it, you know? Like, when you're going for like 9 hours, like what do you think of? What do you think about? What keeps you going?
Well, to be honest, back in the early days, I didn't really think about anything else but, you know, finishing the race. And I think that, you know, when people put too many expectations or, you know, too many goals on races, that, you know, sometimes is the wrong thing to do. I think first and foremost, just go out and train to have fun. Go out and train to get the distance done. If you haven't done a 180K bike ride, you know, go out and, you know, make that your goal. Don't make in the race, you know, the 180K bike ride the goal. So just tick off those things in training. Now, I didn't really answer your question in what goes through your mind, but what does go through your mind is that you've got to look. I use a lot of things in analogies, like let's say a Bathurst, right? You've got however many Ks it is, however many laps it is. You're really only as good as your support crew, right? Your support crew are there to put extra tires on. So for me, that's, you know, and fuel in the car. So for me, that is fueling my body. They have to come into the pits every so often, or every 50 or 100 laps or whatever it is, because you physically cannot go the distance without fuel, but you can't go the distance without all the other things too. So you have to constantly remind yourself every 10 minutes you need to be taken in, if you're like 100, so if you're about 60 kilograms, like I was when I raced.
I'm a bit heavier.
I'm a bit heavier now, mate. I'm 82. Yeah, so a quarter of my weight more. But anyway, you just have to, go on about 250, 275 calories per hour. So therefore, you've got to put in every 10 minutes, you've got to put in whatever it is, 50, 60, 70 calories just to keep that constant flow going.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have that constant flow, you're going to ebb and flow, right? You'll go up and down like a tide. And you don't want that to happen. You want a constant, amount of fuel going through all the time. So that was one thing I thought about. And then if things got tough, like if you're going into a down patch or a patch where, you were losing your energy or whatever, it's thinking about that, or going back and thinking about what was the perfect training day I had. Was it the day that I ran across the Tarrant Point Bridge into toward the airport and turned around and came back, and on the way back I felt really good into a headwind or whatever it is. But you just got to, look at, go back and think about those positive things and think about the days that were really positive. That's about it.
And that got you through the painful bits.
Terribly so, yes.
Yeah, and the training also, like obviously lots of early mornings, lots of hours because you got to do the bike, swim and the run. Like what was your training schedule like?
Yeah, it didn't matter if you had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go for a ride because, that was the time we had to go because of the traffic around here.
Yep.
So we used to meet a group up in Caringbah and, do about an hour and a half with them, and then we'd go on a bit further, go for another lap through the national park or something like that. But I always say if you sleep in and, just rest on your laurels, your competition's out there training.
Yeah.
Right? So if you rest, they're training. So get out there, don't miss a day, or stick to the plan. And just know that plan is going to come to fruition after a period of time. It just doesn't happen overnight. So, just be very diligent about the way that you do things. It's just, just like a school kid that has to get up and, get their lunchbox ready and put their books in their backpack, and then, then they're prepared. If you don't do that, you're not prepared. So it's all about
good discipline.
Good discipline.
And did you have, like professional trainers that trained you on the different legs and nutritionists and all that? No, you just did that.
So you're talking about an athlete back in the 80s.
Yeah. Not like now,
Yeah, so back in the 80s, unless you're like right at the, the top in marathon running or track and field or, something like that in endurance sport, triathlon didn't have that back then. There was only a few coaches. There was only a few doctors or dietitians or, people working with athletes. So back then it was all pretty much guesswork. So pretty much I had a couple of books that I went off. I had Di Castella's book and that I read. And
there was no YouTube or internet either to search it up, huh?
No, nothing like it was magazines.
Yeah, wow.
So you'd have to go and buy the magazine, like the triathlon magazine.
And see what they did for training.
Yeah. And I used to buy,
ate.
Exactly. And I used to buy Runner's World, from the United States and read all the nutritional tips and things. But I did, read The Law of Running by Tim Noakes. He was a professor from Stellenbosch in South Africa, and he was a running coach as well, and professor at the university. So he always had really good things to say, and he was ahead of his time back then. So I took a lot from his book too, and that was recommended to me by another athlete from that region.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And you help out triathletes now doing any of this training stuff, or
not really?
Anyone ask for your advice much? Or
if they ask me for advice, I give it. But I'm not coaching anybody personally. Okay. I'm too busy at work. I have 2 jobs. I got 2 kids in college, and that keeps me busy. I do love helping. I'm still involved in the sport heavily, but I'm not coaching at the moment. No.
Okay, cool. And what about, you say, like with the training? So obviously your wife must be pretty patient with you and like had to sacrifice a lot for that training as well, or?
She did, yes, she did. So we're divorced now, which is okay, and we've moved on. But she was magnificent because she was a professional triathlete too.
Oh, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So she won Australia Iron Man. 2000 or something like that, 2001. But yeah, she was great too. So it really helped, get each other out of bed and out of the house and get going. But
into the same thing.
It was good.
Yeah, that's great. And you've won obviously lots of world championships, Hall of Fame. So you had a great career. Then in 99, was it, when you had a few issues, mate? What you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. My career was, all about, winning titles. I, not a person that just wanted to go out and win 10 times one event. I wanted to go out and win everything in the sport. So I achieved that in 1990 with Olympic Distance World Championship. 1993, I won the World Duathlon Championship. 1994, I won Ironman World Championship. And then 1996, I won the 70.3 or the long distance World Championship. So I'm the only guy that's ever done that.
Yeah,
so
wow.
that was what I set out to do. And then the last thing that I wanted to tick off was the Olympics.
Which was Sydney 2000, huh?
Correct. So my goal was to qualify for that and win it and then retire.
Was that the first time triathlon was in the Olympics?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't born too far away, about 12 kilometres away from the start line. So I really wanted it to be my last and very special race. But going into that in 99, we had to, do the series, which was the International Triathlon Union, Olympic qualifying points series races. And we had to, qualify quota slots for the team. So in 99, 98, 99, 98, I think I won the big test event on the course at the Opera House. 99, I think Hamish Carter won it or I won it. I have to go back and look at those results. But anyway, qualified up pretty well, going into 2000. We had our qualifying races in April of 2000, but unfortunately, in 99 in October, in Ironman, I had a problem. It was going to be my last Ironman before my last long race before the Olympic Games. Had a problem in the swim. Couldn't really, get any breath, and it was a little bit of a weird situation that I had never experienced before. On the bike, I had to stop about 10 times or something like that. And
so you went from feeling good to just...
I hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit a brick wall. I just couldn't breathe. So I thought I'm a sports-induced asthmatic, as I was diagnosed from, Triathlon Australia back in the day. But I'd never had the attack. So I kept going in the Ironman, and then on the bike ride, stopped about 10 times just to get my breath, put my head on the handlebars and just tried to breathe. And then on the run, stopped 3 times. I actually saw one of my friend's fathers, Chris Lee, he's a triathlete from Melbourne. His father-in-law was out there, Roger, Dr. Thornton. And he's like, "Are you feeling all right? I've seen you stop a couple of times." I was like, "Actually, no, I'm not." He goes, "What's going on?" And I said, I don't know, I'm having these breathing problems and whatever. And he's like, "Well, if you feel good, keep going on. But if you don't feel that good, you should stop." "Oh, I'm okay, Roger. I'm okay. Thank you very much." Anyway, I get off the bike about 55th place or something like that, and I ran into 11th. And the most thing that upset me that day was that I was 1 out of the prize money. I almost killed myself.
Yeah.
But no, they
and
said
you still didn't know what was wrong.
No. So then I went to the medical tent and I tried to get some answers and did one of those 12 lead EKGs, and everything came back nice. But I can tell you now that I was in ventricular tachycardia, and my highest heart rate was recorded at 320. And that wasn't just for 15 or 20 seconds. That went on for a couple of minutes. So the doctors did tell me that if it was anybody else, it just would have knocked you flat on your back and killed you.
Just like you were so fit.
But a physically well-trained heart was the only reason that it kept me alive.
Yeah, shit. Because your mate had issue too, didn't he, when he was young?
So Richie, my best bud, he practically passed away from a heart attack, from a cardiac arrest in the World Cup triathlon. Yeah, back then. So unfortunately.
So did you stress when it happened? Did you think back, or you didn't think?
Yeah,
back
I pretty much dedicated my career to that guy,
to
Richard. Yeah, because he and my other friend Peter Brunker and myself, Peter Brim from Cronulla, we set out as 3 young kids, 21-year-olds, just
take over
not knowing what to
do.
We just wanted to do an Ironman, because it sounded good, and you'd be really nice and tough if you had that. It's a bit of a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, Richard did pass away from cardiac arrest, 21 years old in 3 days.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's sad, yeah. And did that stress you or you didn't think that was happening to you?
It didn't. Yeah, mate. I mean, I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I just thought, it was something. I'll take care of it. I'll go back to San Diego and, just recuperate from the race and put my head down and get ready for qualifying for the Olympics in 2000. And a couple of weeks after I got back, I decided to do a test set. I always did a test set of 7 200s on short rest, and just descend the set.
Swimming or?
Swimming.
Yep.
Yeah, probably the worst thing to do, right? Anyway, it was at the end of one of my sessions, and I was going into VTAC again, and I was just hanging onto the side of the wall there at the gutter where the filtration system is, and one of the guys that I was swimming with, a cardiologist, believe it or not.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, Greg, you feeling all right? And I'm like, actually, no. So he just come up to my office straight away. So I went up to his office. I did a treadmill test, and he said he couldn't find anything at the time, but he did book me in for a thallium treadmill test. So it was a, nuclear medicine test where they inject the dye, and I went up to Los Angeles, and that day I was doing the test. I was on the treadmill, and the doctor there, he's like, yeah, we've had, famous athletes here before, Bjorn Borg, and I'm like, well, he's a tennis player. I'm a triathlete. Come on, man, get this machine going. So anyway, he couldn't get me to go into VTAC, and I said, hey, listen, let me take over just for a sec. So I got the elevation gain right up, and I just put it up to like 13 miles an hour, 14 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. I was running like a freak, and then all of a sudden I went into VTAC, called the ambulance, and that was it.
So what happens then? You passed out, or you
didn't
collapsed?
Pass out, didn't collapse.
Just your heart was moving.
Yeah, he measured it by ruler. That was the only way that he could measure it at the time to get that accurate count. 320, called the ambulance, and that's where I went off to UCLA Medical Hospital, and that was the first of 3 heart procedures I'd do in the space of about 10 days, and that's how we found out.
In 10 days, wow.
Yeah.
So then obviously you would have been broken too because you couldn't go in the Olympics. Did that crush you a bit, or you're just happy to be healthy? And
after the third procedure, I had decided to retire.
Okay.
Yeah, because the doctor came in and just said, this is a fatal condition, and that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
I hadn't even started to have a family yet. That was one of my goals, was to have children, and I'd done enough. I had done enough in the sport to be satisfied with that. It would have been nice to walk out with an Olympic medal or the experience or whatever it is, but didn't happen. But like I said, I had an incredible career. I didn't even start out to think that I could win a race. I won my first race in 88 and become a 5-time world champion. And gosh, man, the rest is great.
And now still working for the triathlon?
Yeah, still doing it.
Still
I commentate. Now. Yeah, I've got a great career. I commentate for the Iron Man group and, do the races, world championships in Kona and Nice and, 12 other races during the year. I work for Oakley in global sports marketing and, I get to scout and contract athletes for the company. And
yeah, wow, it's good.
It's brilliant. I have an incredible life. Yeah, it's great.
And your health now, you're good? What does it stop you from doing now? Or
yeah, you know what? I wanted to share one story that is pretty close to my heart. Is that in 2003, my oldest daughter was born in 2001, but in 2003, my youngest daughter Emma was born, May 6th, and it was around about 2 weeks later that I wasn't feeling so well and started going into VTAC a lot. I do have an ICD implanted, an implanted defibrillator.
Defib, yeah.
Yeah, I've had 5 in the front up here, just underneath my clavicle, and now I have a new one in my back because my leads are all cracked. There's 2 cracked leads that go into my ventricle that we can't use anymore. So I have a subcutaneous defibrillator that sits in my back. Subcutaneous meaning that the wires sit under the skin but not inside the vessels.
Okay.
So, but anyway, in 2003, wasn't feeling well, going to VTAC quite a lot, and I started to get belted by my defibrillator. And that's at about 800 volts of, shock coming through your body.
Every time you go into VTAC?
Every time, because the way that my defibrillator was set up was to take me out of that dangerous...
And then trip to hospital, go through everything.
Trip to hospital, ambulance, the whole 9 yards. So it happened about 30 times in the space of about 3 weeks.
Yeah, shit.
So it did my head in, to be quite honest, and so I struggled. Yeah, I struggled for about 3 months. It happened a lot in my house, right? So about 20 of those defibrillations happened in between my living room and my toilet on the downstairs level. So every time I got off the couch and, to go to the toilet, I was sort of in a bit of denial and I couldn't quite walk to the toilet quick enough because I was already going into thinking that I was going to get whacked again. So I had to put myself in a different headspace.
So you could feel your heart racing?
No, it wasn't racing. It was my head taking over. Yeah. So I was just, I was suffering a little bit, just a little bit. And I really didn't know how to get myself, out of this funk.
Yep.
So what I did is I got a yoga instructor to come to the house 3 times a week. I was doing breathing exercises for like an hour at a time, just sitting in a quiet spot in my house. But it took about 3 months for me to get over it and just I wasn't really helping myself, so I don't know if I was being serious enough about it or in denial that I was still okay when I wasn't.
And were you anxious about it happening all the time?
Very much so. I was putting myself into a panic attack all the time.
Yep.
And I shouldn't have done that. I should have just listened to the doctors, listened to everyone to say that you can get through this. I didn't think that I could get through it, to be honest. I don't think I could. It's not a matter of giving up. I was prepared for the fight.
Yep.
But I was scared of losing.
Yeah,
and I just didn't know, where to get help, what to do. And so that for me was probably the most difficult time in my life.
Yeah, I bet. And how did you get through that? Did you go see professional help, like psychologist, therapist?
Yeah, I just had, I had that time, just doing some yoga, just like the breathing exercises, just settling down. And then after a little while, sort of, the light goes off and, just all of a sudden I'm starting to feel good. I'm getting confidence, and I wasn't working at the time because I was just physically unable to do that.
Yep.
And I started going back out into the workforce and got myself my job that I'm now been there for, 15, 16 years or something. And I've been with the company since 91. I was sponsored by them as well.
Yeah.
Locally, back in the day. So they've been just a fantastic employer. But
well, it's great. So you had a pretty bad bout of anxiety, depression, obviously, if you weren't working, maybe.
100%.
Yeah, wow.
There was a lot of depression. There was a lot of anxiety.
Which that can just freeze you,
It does.
Yeah.
It does freeze you. But the hardest thing to do is, the easiest thing to do is isolate. And you can't isolate.
Yep.
It's like any addiction too. Like if you're in addiction, if it's drugs or if it's alcohol, it's the same thing. Isolation is the worst. You can't do it. You just got to get out. You've got to meet people. You've got to create a different group to be with and hold each other accountable, because there's a lot of people out there like myself that don't admit to it. And I was one of those people back then.
And once you admitted, got help, got you out of the problem. Huh?
Everything got better.
Yeah.
Everything got better. And
since you've been, so that's like 20 years ago now.
Oh, yeah,
close
absolutely.
To a long time, eh?
Yeah, my daughter's now, she's going to be turning 21 in May.
And have you been into VTech?
VTech?
Yeah.
You know what? Touch wood right here, and I'll touch my head at the same time because it's full of it.
Yeah.
But, I've been really well. The defibrillator works just fine, and I'm on medication.
So from 30 times in 10 days to 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years free now. Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I do get the odd PVC, which is the preventricular contraction.
Yep.
Which is normal. A lot of people get those, whether, if you have AFib or, not so, volatile or volatile issues. So, pretty lucky. I'm good, and I'm able to go swim, and I can jog if I want to, but the legs don't want to because my big belly at 82 kilograms doesn't want to do it. Yeah, not the knees. I think it's just, the ticker and the lungs and anyway, so I just like to paddle board.
How fast they could go.
Yeah, I just like
to be able to go.
Yeah, I like to paddle board, do my OC1, get out there and, play a lot of pickleball and tennis and have different hobbies.
You're still pretty active. That's
yes,
good.
very.
Yeah, and everything's fine.
Yeah, and the most important for me is to go out swimming with my younger brother and nieces and, make sure that I, beat them every time I come back. So,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
got to keep them honest,
Macy got me to go around the island. Once a while ago.
Yeah, Macy's a cheeky little bugger. Yeah.
We had a few too many beers one day, and I betted I could swim around the island, and I forgot about it. Then she reminded me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she won't let you get away with anything.
Which was tough. But yeah, that's great, mate. So, so to get, you got through your anxiety and depression. So what would your advice you'd give to any of the fellas out there? Because like you said, a lot of people go through it. And especially like your case, like people see you were like a hero, world champion, Iron Man, triathlete, this, and then it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Or can happen to everybody,
Yeah.
So what advice would you give, mate, to the fellas out there? Reach out.
Reach out.
Yep.
Mate, there's so many people out there that want to talk.
Yeah.
Honestly, and, the group that you guys swim with, the Cronulla Gropers, it's a fantastic group, and there's a lot of people in that situation, even my younger brother's brother-in-law. I won't say names. But, has an issue very similar to mine.
Yeah.
Same as mine. Exactly the same as mine.
And he went into that VTAG probably a month ago,
yeah,
maybe?
It's inside of it, I think. About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I just, it's important to talk. My My story is very public, and I've always, I wrote a book about 16 years ago, and it's called Heart of a Champion. Selling it, I had to do it because I wanted other people to know what I'd been through, and to reach out. So
it's probably helped a lot of people.
Oh, for sure, because I get hit up all the time on Messenger and Facebook, Instagram, direct message, whatever. Even phone calls and stuff, and people just trying to figure out how they can get help. Oh, Mr. Welch, I do triathlon, or I'm a runner. I went into VTech. I read your story. How can I get help? Who do I go and see? And to me, that is why I get up every day.
Yeah,
I just want to help one person a day.
Make a difference.
Or if I can pay it forward every day, do one little thing like that, then you've done your job, and it helps somebody as well. So the number one thing to do is to reach out. The number two thing to do is to get help. If you can't reach out and find it, go and get help somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and number three, don't isolate. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't be stubborn. That's going to kill you, and that's not going to do anyone good.
No, that's it. That's a great message, Greg. Thanks for your time today, buddy.
I didn't let you talk very much, did I?
No, I'm not supposed to.
Oh, okay.
It's your job. It's your job to do most of the talking. Okay. If I don't talk much, that means it's good.
All right.
So thanks very much, mate. Thanks for coming.
I've enjoyed it.
Good to meet you. And we'll get this up and get it out there and help some fellas out.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Be good, fellas.
Great.
Reach out.
Thanks, buddy.
Don't be a dick.
Thanks, Greg. Cheers, bud.